So everyone, welcome again to today's Going Pro Talent Fund information session. This is for cycle 2 of this year, which will start in July. Applications will open in May. Today's agenda, we will have our CEO or Executive Director / CEO, Greg Petoniak. He will go over kind of welcome, kind of brief overview and history of Michigan Works, and then he will hand it off to Colleen Mallory, who will be going over our business services, and then I will dive into the Going Pro Talent Fund and what that all has to offer this year. So I'll hand it over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Trevor. Good morning, everyone. And Madonna, I love your shirt, right in the spirit. Go Tigers today. Well, so I'm Greg Petoniak. I'm the CEO for SEMCA Michigan Works. And as this slide gives you some information on us, we are a nonprofit corporation formed 26 years ago and have been a leader in talent development programs in our region for many decades. We have been created and led by your community and business leadership, a formal partnership with Monroe and Wayne counties, as well as the 3 community conferences you see listed on the slide. We are a part of a national workforce development board system, and our board majority by federal rules are required to have majority private sector membership in order to guide us about what's happening in the local economy and employers' needs. As part of our role, we operate 6 Michigan Works American Job Centers throughout the region to allow both job seekers and employers to interface with our staff on the ways in which we can assist them. By the way, so Michigan Works is the brand name for the workforce development boards in the state of Michigan, and there are 16 Michigan Works agencies in the state of Michigan. One other little factoid I'd like to share with people to reassure them about our commitment to continuous improvement is that we voluntarily seek accreditation by the National Council on Accreditation every 3 years, which helps us assure that we are using contemporary business and financial practices and kind of again constantly improving our systems and processes. So this slide, every 3 years we also go through a strategic planning process at SEMCA that involves the Workforce Development Board, the governing board, all the employees, as well as all of our partners. And this is our most recent version of our mission and vision statements. From my perspective, the key words are innovative and partnerships. So we're very committed to collaboration and in staying on the cutting edge of delivering our programs and services. So yes, employers are our customers. Many people think we're just about job seekers, which certainly they are a co-equal customer of ours, but we are very much a demand-driven system and understand in order to meet job seekers' needs, we have to understand employers' needs, both in terms of the skill sets and the training and in helping better inform our job seekers what they should pursue. We also assist them with their incumbent employee training, which again, Going Pro Talent Fund, by the way, is an ideal opportunity for incumbent worker training. And we are committed to adapting to the economy as it changes. We have a greater commitment than ever to career pathways awareness for youth and adults. And I know some of you probably say, gosh, I need more youth interested in my industry and my employment opportunities. Well, that's part of what we're about and do that kind of career awareness with youth and adults. We do try to limit our training funding to achieving credentials in high demand occupations only. So we don't want to be training people in some kind of occupation or skill set that is not needed in the economy. And we have a greater commitment than ever to work-based learning options. Of course, that can include apprenticeships, but not limited to that. It could be on-the-job training and other options associated with learning while they're working. So before I pass this on to Colleen Mallory, let me just indicate to you that the Going Pro Talent Fund is a very real option for you. It does not cost you to apply for this funding. It is a program that enjoys strong bipartisan support from the Michigan legislature and the past, current and past governors. And we can provide grants as small as a couple $1,000s up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So don't feel like you have to have significance in this picture. We love helping small businesses, and it's funding is high as it's ever been with the state legislature. So we think it's an outstanding opportunity for businesses to upskill their incumbent workforce and their new hires. So please keep this in mind as a real option for you. All right, I'd like to turn it over to Colleen Mallory. Colleen is our Workforce Development Program Manager, and she's going to share a little more information on SEMCA's business services. Colleen?
Great, thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. So we're just going to give it, I know you're all here for Going Pro Talent Fund, but our business services team, we do offer other services to our local employers at no cost to you. So one of our things we offer is talent recruitment assistance. We know everybody's struggling to find the good help that they need. So we can do anything from researching labor market information for you, including wage data. We can draft job descriptions, and we post all of our positions on the Pure Michigan Talent Connect website, which is a job posting job portal site sponsored by the state of Michigan. It's free for employers to post positions and search for candidates, and we can help you do that. We take those job postings and we send them out to our network that involves all the local partners that work with job seekers, as well as post them on all our social media platforms. We also can provide job fairs. We have them virtually once a quarter. So if it's easier for you to participate that way, we can do that. We also host them in our American Job Centers that Greg talked about, so we can have in-person fairs for you as well. We can pre-screen applicants. So if you're being overloaded by applicants coming in, we can help pre-screen them and sort them out for you. And our space at our American Job Centers can also be used for your onboarding opportunities that you have. If you're bringing on a group of people at one time and you don't have the space at your location, you're welcome to use one of our spaces at our local Michigan Works American Job Centers. Or if you're doing any type of training opportunities, so if you're doing some staff training, you can we'll be happy to offer that space for you for that as well. And we have access to no-cost fidelity bonding. So if you're interested in maybe bringing on some returning citizens or things like that, we can assist you with getting those people bonded. In addition to our talent recruitment services, we also offer talent development funding. So in addition to the Growing Pro Talent Fund, we also offer funding that can support on-the-job training for new hires. It's a employer reimbursement program where we can reimburse you for up to 50% of someone's wages while they're being trained on the job. That's one of our most popular that we have. We also have a variety of local grants in our area, sponsored by the state of Michigan and the federal government, that has funding attached to it to train your current staff or also new hires. One of the big ones right now are USDOL apprenticeships. So if you're interested in getting an apprenticeship started, we can help you with that. We can walk you through the process of getting one up and running. If you have already have an apprenticeship established, but you're looking for talent for those apprenticeships or assistance with offsetting the cost of those apprenticeships, we can help you with that. Our Business Resource Network is an opportunity for employers to join, and we can help you with those kind of extraordinary issues that come up with employees to keep them on the job and productive. We can have a coach come in and work directly with employees to help them overcome any barriers they may have to maintaining employment. So if it's anything from housing insecurity, medical debt, transportation, childcare, those kinds of things, we can have a coach come in and work with your employees on any of those issues to help them overcome them and make sure that they can stay retained in their positions and help you keep fully staffed. think that's it for me. I just have one little note before Trevor starts, is that we're going to ask that if you could please complete a feedback form after the session. I put a link in the chat, so you'll see it there. I'll put it in again at the end. And if you have any interest in those services I just talked about, they're on that feedback form, and we'll make sure someone gets in touch with you to review them again with you and your specific needs. Great, thank you. All right, Trevor, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Colleen. And as a reminder, throughout the presentation, we will have spots to ask questions. So if a question comes up, you don't have to hold it till the end. We will have a few spots to ask questions. And you're also more than welcome to drop your question in the chat. And then once we get to those stops, we'll review those and answer any questions. So the Going Pro Talent Fund. The purpose of the Going Pro Talent Fund is to provide competitive awards to employers to assist in training, developing, and retaining current and new employees. It also helps to ensure that Michigan's employers have the talent they need to compete and grow, and individuals that have the skills they need for in-demand jobs. It is available to private sector employers in Michigan, and it is a competitive award. So it's not just, it's not just an apply and get awarded. You are competing against the other employers in the area, and you must apply within the application window. The application window for cycle 2, this upcoming cycle this year, is May 1st to May 24th. And as we go along, you may see some blue asterisks next to things. Those are changes to this year's grant from last year. And they've hopefully have made changes that make it easier on you, the employer. There we go. The Going Pro Talent Fund is designed to create public-private partnerships with businesses to develop training models that adapt in real time with the changing employer demand. All training must be completed within 1 year from the date of award and lead to a credential for a skill that is transferable and industry recognized, so that if for some reason you have to lay off employees, that training that they took with you will help them gain employment somewhere else. Employers who request funding must actively participate in the development of your training plan and must commit to retaining individuals at the completion of training. New jobs created as a result of training should be filled by individuals recruited with the assistance of your local Michigan Works agency. Additionally, due to a challenge finding skilled talent to fill your jobs, companies are encouraged to expand their recruitment to include individuals within targeted populations. And later on in the slides, we'll go over what those targeted population areas are. So to be an eligible employer for the Going Pro Talent Fund grant, you need to be a non-government private sector, for-profit or nonprofit company or organization. The employer must have a need for skill enhancement, including apprenticeship programs, advanced tech programs for current employees or new hire employees. You must have a Michigan presence. You can't be an organization that does business in Michigan occasionally. You need to be doing business in Michigan year-round. Must be in compliance with all federal state tax obligations, that is including but not limited to corporate sales, use, withholding, personal income, and unemployment insurance tax. And if you are awarded, the state will verify that you are in good standing. And if you're not, you will be given I believe it is like a 60-day period to rectify those outstanding obligations. You must be willing to participate under the project's eligibility parameters and guidelines, which we'll go over later. Public institutions or entities that are not eligible to apply would be quasi-public private entities, even if they are a 501c3. No county road commissions, municipality-owned utilities, federally qualified health centers, community mental health authorities, and other such businesses. Eligible employees. So you have kind of two types of employees that are eligible for training: your current employees, so individuals that are currently on your payroll at the time of application, and then new hires. And a new hire is someone who is hired 30 days prior to, on, or after the award date. So for cycle 2, the award date is July 17th. So a new hire would be anyone hired 30 days prior to that, on or after. They'd be considered a new hire. They must be a permanent full-time employee. Full-time is considered 32 hours per week or more. Individuals who work in Michigan for whom employer pays all applicable taxes in the state of Michigan, regardless of where the employee lives. I know as in southeastern Michigan, we have people commuting up from Ohio. So as long as you, the employer, paying all applicable taxes for that employee, they are eligible to be trained on the grant. They must be 18 years of age or older, must be a U.S. citizen or authorized to legally work within the U.S. And once again, they must be full-time, cannot be a seasonal or part-time employee. Take a minute here if you have anybody has any questions. Just checking the chat right here.
I don't see anything in the chat, so it looks like we can move on.
All right. So training. Training funding should be utilized to provide short-term training to meet current demand needs for the employer. So that's no training should exceed more than 6 months in duration. All classroom and customized training and apprenticeship training should conclude within 1 year from the award date. So if it is awarded July 17th, all training needs to be completed by July 16th, 2024. New employee on the job training, including a 90-day retention post training period, needs to be completed within that 1 year. So for on the job training, once they've completed the on the job training hours, there is a 90-day retention period after that that has to be complete by July 16th, 2024. So the very last date that you could finish your on the job training for cycle 2 would be April 17th, 2024, so that you are able to complete that 90-day retention period by the 1 year mark. Eligible training providers of people you can go get training from would be Michigan community colleges or universities, private training providers identified and agreed upon by all partners who can do accelerated just-in-time learning, registered United States Department of Labor joint apprenticeship training centers. So those are like a lot of your skilled trade training centers. Vendors providing training in operation of equipment or systems for which they were the provider. So if you buy a piece of equipment that you need training on and that person you bought it from offers training for that equipment, they are an eligible training provider in that instance. Employers only if their resources or equipment are exclusive in training or exclusive in nature, and then the employer is allowed to be the training provider. Proprietary schools as licensed in the state of Michigan, and the preference is to have all training occur within Michigan. However, out-of-state may be allowable if there's a documented need or rationale. So if the type of training you need is only offered by someone out of state, if you have some sort of, specialty machinery or process or software that only someone, in New Mexico offers training on, then you would be able to go there and get that training. So there's 3 different types of allowable training within the training plan. First type is classroom and customized training. That would be for current or new employees. It must lead to a credential for a skill that is transferable or recognized in the industry. Credentials should allow the individual to retain employment, or in the case that they become unemployed, gain employment in a shorter time frame. Conducted by a third party, unless exclusive in nature, like we just discussed. May take place at the training provider or on site at the employer. So a training provider is more than welcome to come into your place of employment and put on the training. That is okay. It doesn't have to be, a formal classroom setting with desks and a whiteboard and a teacher standing up front. It can take place at your workplace in a conference room, just as long as it is a live instructor-led course. May take place online, but you need to provide rationale for why you have to do it online, and there must be a live instructor-led portion of it. It can't be a self-paced online learning that you just do on your own time. Now, if you are following along with the handouts, you can pull out your eligible and ineligible training guide. So this right here is not a comprehensive, I guess, or an exclusive list of what is eligible and ineligible. This is just a guide, but here are some of the examples of what is eligible training. So you have like CNC program operator and controller. You have other, like, let's see, what are some other popular ones here? Industrial sewing, metal casting, welding, right? So things that lead to some sort of certificate that, once again, that is transferable that they can take to another employer, AutoCAD, and things like that. And this is broken down in more detail in your employer process guide as far as what is eligible, ineligible. And it is just a guide. So if you have a class that you think fits within the realm of eligibility, you're also more than welcome to reach out to myself, or at the end of this, when you fill out your feedback form, we'll get you connected with one of our business services rep, and they can also help you navigate, which courses you're thinking about are eligible or ineligible. So here are some of the ineligible courses. One of the big things to keep in mind is the soft skills are not eligible courses. So we often get several on an application where they're looking for kind of those HR basic onboarding type trainings. Those are not eligible under the grant. Anything that your employees have to do as part of a regular part of employment that is a yearly, like an LMS system, to where they're going on doing trainings that they do every year. Those are not eligible type trainings. There is, however, this human resources apprenticeship training that is allowable. So that is for someone who's a human services professional who's pursuing a career in human resources. Those type trainings for that person in an apprenticeship role would be eligible. Second type of training would be on-the-job training. So this is for individuals hired within 30 days prior to, on, or after the award date. That is your new hire. If an individual was hired within 30 days prior to or on the award date, their reimbursable training is to begin on the award date. So you can't, backdate training that started before the actual award period. Work-based learning and training is conducted at the workplace for on-the-job training. Training a new hire to obtain skills to become proficient in a new job should not be used for low-wage or high-turnover occupations. Training is conducted at the work site. And once again, with on-the-job training, there is a 90-day retention period after the OJT is completed, and there is reimbursement tiers associated with that. So if you only retain that person for 30 days, you get 50% reimbursement. If you retain that employee for 60 days, you get 75%. And if you retain them for the full 90 days, you get 100% reimbursement for that training. Third type is apprenticeships. So all apprentices this year are eligible for training funds. So in previous years, it was just first year apprentices. Now, if you are any year within your apprenticeship, you are eligible, you are an eligible employee to be trained. An apprentice may be a current or new employee. Training may be classroom only training, maybe a combination of classroom training or on-the-job training, and it may be on-the-job training only. And these must be USDOL registered apprentices. And the retention period for USDOL apprentices for OJT may start at the beginning of OJT. So you don't have to, with USDOL recognized apprentices, you don't have to do your OJT and then have the 90-day retention. The 90-day retention is included as part of the OJT just for apprentices. A nice change this year, they no longer require rapids forms or demographic forms for the apprentices because the state will be doing that verification. So we will still need a list of all of your apprentices' names that we will then send to the state, and they will do the rapids verification to make sure that they are part of a USDOL recognized apprenticeship program. And then you will need to submit a letter attesting that you do have an active USDOL apprenticeship program in what occupations you have that in. Allowable expenditures. So this would be actual cost of the classroom training, wage reimbursement for new hire on-the-job training, USDOL registered apprenticeship training classroom, or on-the-job training only, or a combination of the classroom and on-the-job training. Things you can't spend grant dollars on would be like the purchase of new tools, licensing fees, testing fees, curriculum development, travel costs, online training subscriptions. So the funds need to go directly to the actual training, classroom training, or that wage reimbursement for on-the-job training. Cost of classroom training should not exceed $2,000 per trainee. That is an increase from last year. It was $1,500, so they've upped it to $2,000 per trainee. The new hire on-the-job training and classroom training should not exceed $2,000 per trainee. USDL registered apprenticeship training should not exceed $3,500 per trainee. That again was increased from $3,000 to $3,500. There is also these targeted incentives. So this is where those targeted employee categories are. So if you have a new hire that falls within one of these categories, they would be eligible for a $500 reimbursement. So that'd be veteran, active military, older worker, returning citizen, individual with disability, public assistance recipient, or if your new hire employee completes 75% of a high school diploma equivalency while being employed with you, you would actually get a $1,000 incentive for that employee. And these are not stackable. So you could not, hire someone who, was a veteran and is 55 and older and get $1,000. You would just get a $500 incentive for that employee. Any questions?
Let's check the chat. I didn't see any. No, I don't see anything in the chat, so let's go ahead and move on.
All right. There we go. So as the employer, you do have a few responsibilities. This is a government-funded grant, so there is reporting and tracking to do. They don't just let us, give out money without any tracking. You must be actively involved in the planning and design of the training project. You need to include realistic expectations, so drilling down into real-time training need, what you can actually accomplish within that 1-year time frame, and still meet your production and other business needs. And awardees are accountable to implement the approved training plan. So if you put forth the training plan, you are expected to implement that plan and complete it. And we know things do happen, employees end up quitting, or you have to terminate them, or potential trainings, get canceled or moved. So there will be, some variance within your award. You may not be able to fully utilize it, but you are expected to the best of your ability to complete the training plan that you put forward. The talent fund should not be utilized for low wage, high turnover occupations. It is the expectation that training leads to higher skills and results in higher wages. You will need to sign a contract/training agreement with the Michigan Works agency, outlining the employer's roles and responsibilities in the training project. At the completion of training, you will provide an impact story, and before your final reimbursement is sent out, that impact story will need to be completed. Commit to retain employees at the completion of training. You will need to provide wage information prior to training, post-training, and then 6 months post-training. So as you're thinking about this grant, you do need to think about the time frame and commitment that goes along with it. So you could spend anywhere from 7 months to 1.5 years, kind of following along and tracking and putting your employees through training. Provide required documentation for reimbursement. You will need to provide projected employer contribution on the application, and then confirm projected or revised contribution post-training. So what those projected employer contributions would be, that would be things like wages that you pay to your employees while they're in training, cost of equipment for training, release time for trainees working towards high school diploma during work hours may be used. An employer should retain supporting documentation for employer contributions as audits do happen. You will need to, if you have been an awardee in the past, you will have to close out your prior year award before you can receive a new award. And you can only receive one award per fiscal year. So you couldn't, apply in cycle 1, get an award, get everything closed out, and apply again in cycle 2. It's one award per year, but you can apply each year as long as you have your prior year award closed out before the new award. Commit to using Michigan Works and our Pure Michigan Talent Connect to recruit and fill open positions. And those, would be created by, upskilling your employees. So then you're opening up lower skill entry positions. So the actual application. So after the session here and you get connected with one of our business services reps, they will come out and do a visit with you and do a fact-finding meeting to make sure that the Going Pro Talent Fund application is a good fit for you and your business. You will then be, if it is a good fit or you want to continue on, They will then send you a link for an online application that is completed by you, the employer. The application period for cycle 2 will open May 1st and close May 24th by close of business. So you need to have that application submitted by close of business on May 24th, or else you will be excluded from the application process. Once those are submitted, scores are tallied, and awards are made. The training period will start on July 17th, 2023, and go to July 16th, 2024. At the completion of the application does not guarantee funding. So like I said before, it is a competitive grant, so you are competing against other employers in the area. Scoring criteria for the grant. So there is some new scoring criteria this year from last year. So they made it a little more objective instead of subjective. They've eliminated the rationale portion of the application. The application scoring will be based off of several categories that we'll go over below. There is also the WeBlooms, which will display the application score for the employer in the MWA prior to submission. So as you're filling out your application, your score will, tally along the way, so you can see how you're doing out of, your total points. And if you get to the end and you feel like your score is low, you can go back, maybe add some more college courses, or see if you have apprenticeships, you can maybe get some apprentices training to boost your score a bit before you submit. So the categories for which you can score points in is if your business is in a high priority sector. So if your business falls within agribusiness, construction, education, healthcare, information technology, hospitality, outdoor recreation, manufacturing, or mobility, you would be able to score points in that category. If there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion section, and in the employer process guide dives into how you can score points there in more detail. If you have a USDOL apprenticeship program at your place of employment, you can score points there. If any training on your application, if any of your employees will receive college credit, that will give you points. And then if the average wages of everyone on your application is equal to or above the area median wage for the county, you would get points as well. And then if in the case of a tiebreaker, there are a few tiebreaker categories for your application. So these are things to keep in mind as you're building out your application. So if your application has fewer than 100 employees, you would get bonus points. If you, the employer, have fewer than 100 employees, that'll give you bonus points. 50% or more of your employees are new hires, that would get you points. If your funding request is no more than $50,000, that would give you bonus points. And then again, if you have that USDOL apprenticeship, you would get some bonus points again for that. Apprenticeship is a big push across the state. So that is definitely a high priority for them. So diving into the actual process of the application. So once you've gone through, met with your BSR, they feel you are a good fit, they give you the link to go apply. It'll take you to this page here. So if you have never applied before, you will need to create a new account. And if you already have an account with our Pure Michigan Talent Connect, that login should work here. So you would just enter your login information, sign in. If you have not ever used this or are not on our Pure Michigan Talent Connect, you just create a new account, fill out all the pertinent information there. Once you're registered and you enter into the system, you will come to a dashboard that looks like this. You will want to click on the new authorization request button right here. Once you click on the new authorization request, fill out your form. Just follow it step by step, pretty simple. One important thing is that you're filling out your authorization request is you want to select new authorization. Do not select existing. You want to select new. And then select the Michigan Works Association that you are working with. There is a Southeast Michigan Works, which people often confuse with us, which is SEMCA, Southeast Michigan Community Alliance. So make sure you are selecting Southeast Michigan Community Alliance and not Southeast Michigan Works. And then if you are already working with a Michigan Works representative, or if you have one that you worked with in the past, please enter their name here. If you don't have one, that is fine. You can leave that blank. And then once you submit your authorization, you're approved. You'll go back in, start your application. You will want to, again, just fill everything out as it asks for it. This right here, the number of full-time permanent employees. So that is your business as a whole, how many people you employ, not just who's going to be on the training plan. They'll ask you about the Michigan tax obligation. To the best of your knowledge, yes or no if you have any tax obligations. If you do, it's not going to bar you from being awarded. Just if you are awarded, you will have to resolve that obligation within 60 days of being awarded. We want the primary contact, so the person who's going to be actively working with with our BSRs to submit all the reimbursement documentation, filling out the actual application. That is who we want as the primary contact. The training period for this year's for this cycle's application, in here you would put 7/17/2023 to 7/16/2024. Save and continue. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Madonna, a couple questions. So what is the total amount of funding available that's going to be distributed?
So they, I'm getting weird feedback. So they said they have not given us I guess a hard number for cycle 2, but they said there is a healthy 8-figure number. So there's millions of dollars out there. Sounds like deep into the 8 figures. So there's definitely a lot of dollars. And then for per employer, you can request up to $500,000.
Okay, and in years past, how many applicants have you had, and how much, I understand, was this available pre-COVID? Because I think COVID would, skew the numbers a little bit, but how many?
Yes. Yeah, so this has been available pre-COVID. This past cycle, we had 74 applicants, and that was just for our region. So depending, where you are within the state, there's, it varies differently.
So 74 is going to be splitting up the healthy 8-figure amount?
No. So that 8 figures across the whole state.
Okay, in our region, what's the amount that's going to be? I mean,
So
you don't have the exact number yet, or do you have an idea?
No, so they don't allocate a certain amount of dollars per region.
Got it.
So it is all based off of that scoring.
Got it.
Yep.
Of the 74 applicants that you mentioned just a minute ago, how much money was awarded, total amount, to those?
Yes, so
all 74.
So of the 74, 50, I believe 54 were awarded, and the total number of, I guess, dollars awarded across those 54 was about $3 million.
And all 74 were from this region, or all 74
Yes.
were? Okay.
Yeah, 74 from us across the state. I believe it was like 1,500 employees or employers, sorry.
Okay. All right, and then what is the difference between SEMCA and the Southeast Michigan Works?
Different service areas. So we cover Wayne County minus Detroit and Monroe County.
Oh, okay. So the contact you gave me is for Detroit.
Yes.
That. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Looks like we got some questions in the chat here. So it says, looks like we got one here. It says, you mentioned the dates of training to be 7/17 to it'd be 7/16/24. That is the current date range the state has given us. If they run into some issues with the grant, they may push that back. But those are the training dates they have given us so far. So that is what they've published, and I believe that's what they will, they will stick to the best of their ability, barring, some sort of issue beyond our control. Will a representative from SEMCA contact us and help us with the application? Yes. So at the completion of this training here, you'll want to fill out that feedback form so that we can then connect you with the proper business services rep, who will then help walk you through the application and answer any further questions. And they'll be your contact, throughout the year. So as you're submitting reimbursements and things like that, or you have questions or modifications you need to do, they'll be your go-to person to help you get those sorted. We got another question here from Stephanie. It says, my agency has offices all over Wayne County, Wyandotte, Dearborn, Romulus, etc., and our main office is in Detroit. We can apply through SEMCA, correct? Or would we need to go through DESC? So that would be, I would say yes, as long as you're training those employees that are working at the offices at Wyandotte, Dearborn, Romulus. If you're training employees in Detroit, you would probably want to go through DESC, but that would not necessarily bar us from working with you. If you prefer to work with us, we could put a request to them to do the application for your Detroit people as well. All right, I don't see any other questions. We will keep going. Gotta get this wrapped up so we can watch some baseball. All right, so your training plan. This is just a brief overview, kind of what we'll go through a little more in the next few slides. So as you go in to actually build out your training plan, you'll want to enter the type of training provider that you'll be using, enter the training provider name. If you have on-the-job training, you, the employer, would then be the training provider. That's one of the two instances where you would be able to be the actual training provider. The only other instance is if you have exclusive, an exclusive product or process that no one else, does training for. In that case, you could be the training provider. Then you would enter the training course name, cost per trainee to be entered, including OJT and new hires. Nice thing about this year is they've gotten rid of specific dates for training, so that allows you to get that training done that works best for your company and time frame. And if trainings have to be canceled or moved, you don't have to do a bunch of modifications to your application. So you would be able to enter that training that you completed after it's done, versus having to try and nail down dates before you do the training. Then for current employees, enter the number of employees that will be attending. You don't have to enter specific names of employees anymore up front. So that'll help also with having to do excessive modifications if an employee can't attend a training, or if they are no longer with the company. Select the training that each employee will attend. For new hires, enter job titles, number of trainees, and hourly wage. Select classroom training courses for new hires and OJT if applicable. For apprentices, you'll select courses and enter the number of hours of on-the-job training. So this will make a little more sense as we go through the next few slides. So as you've applied, done your authorization, and now you've started your application. So then you first come to this slide here. So this is where you're building out all of your training provider information. So any training institution that you're going to be using for training is what you're going to enter here. So you're going to select your drop-down menu, select which type of training institution is, college, your university, community college, employer for on-the-job training, private proprietary, union, vendor, other. Select that, enter the name of the training provider, city, state, and then you will save, and you'll repeat that process as many times as necessary for all the training providers you'll be using. Once you're done with that, you move on to your next, where you'll be entering all the specific courses that you're going to be putting employees through. So kind of same process. You'll go through click on all the various drop downs. That training provider drop down will populate from those training providers that you just created on the previous page. So then you'll select which training provider, enter that course name, type of training, credential earned. So if it's, like a completion certificate, or if you're getting, if you're doing a college course, you're getting college credit, you would be getting, you'd be selecting college credit or transcript. There we go, escaping me. Where the training is being delivered, so on-site, head training provider, and then you're going to enter, so for that training, enter how many new hires are going into that training, and how many current employees will be taking that training. So if you have no new hires doing, XYZ training, put 0 there. If you have 2 current employees, put 2 in there. And then you will enter the cost per person. So the cost per person, the training cost per person must represent the exact cost that will be reimbursed by the Going Pro Talent Fund. So if you remember, the cap for current employees or new employees was $2,000, whereas apprenticeships are $3,500. So you would enter $2,000 at the max per person. So if the training costs, $6,000, you'd only be eligible to put in $2,000 here. So there's actual cost reimbursed by the grant. Those dollars that are above and beyond what the grant can reimburse, those are dollars you could put into your employer contribution section. So then you would repeat that as many times as necessary for all the different courses. And then once you were done there, then you'd move on to the next page, where then you're going to break down all those trainees you just entered on the courses. So these first 2 categories are going to be kind of the combined total of everyone on your training plan. So you'll first enter the number of unique new hires that you're going to be training, and then enter the unique number of current employees on your training plan. So if you had 20 total, 10 were new hires, 10 are current employees. Then the following categories are breakdowns of those 2 categories. So then just go through, fill them out, number of current employees that are apprentices, enter that there. Number of new hires who are in college credit, enter that there. If it's, if you don't have any college credit on there, that's fine, 0. And then at the end, average hourly wage of employees. So this is just the average hourly wage of employees on the training plan. So take, those 20 employees, add up their hourly wage, divide by 20, enter that number here. So then we get into the reimbursement details section. So in this section, under the reimbursement amount requested for each trainee, you're going to create a new entry for trainees of the same type who are requesting different reimbursement amounts. So for example, an entry would be created for 10 current employees who are being reimbursed at $1,000, and a second entry would be created for 5 current employees who are being reimbursed at $2,000. So that's where that $2,000 cap comes in. So if you have some employees only taking 1 course, or some employees taking multiple courses, so where you're reimbursing them in several different classes, that is where you kind of break them up as far as some employees being only reimbursed 1,000, where some are being reimbursed 2,000 because they're taking multiple classes. So then you create those groups of various dollar amounts of each type of employee, and you do that in here as many times as necessary. And then this can be a little confusing. Don't get too worried about it. I'm here to help you guys sort this out. Your business services rep is there to help you sort this out as well. And before you also start the training plan, we will also have you fill out a Excel spreadsheet, which will help break down and kind of make your training kind of a little more digestible and trackable. And that will help us help you if you run into any issues. And then it'll also help you keep track of who's on your training plan and who's gonna maybe go over the dollar cap or who's under the dollar cap, so you can adjust where you need to. So then once you've completed all that, you go to your next slide. This is your training amount of requested funds, the amount of funds being reimbursed. So if these 2 numbers match, you filled everything out correctly. If there is a discrepancy between the 2, then there was an issue probably with the training plan creation, so like the course cost, and with your reimbursement details. So there you'd have to go back and kind of sort out, who's maybe being reimbursed for more than they should be. And this is where that Excel spreadsheet training plan comes in handy. And then obviously, I'm here to help. BSRs are here to help you sort that out if you run into an issue here. But it should be a lot easier this year with the way they have the application set up. And then you're going to get into your projected employer contribution amount. So this is where you're going to enter those dollars that are above and beyond the actual classroom course dollars. So it would be anything that is like projected wages of employees while in the Going Pro Talent Fund training, travel costs for employees to travel to training, reasonable cost of new equipment, supportive services provided to employees in the Going Pro Talent Fund, such as tuition reimbursement, childcare assistance, additional transportation assistance. Other things would be like overhead administrative costs, outside facility, training facility costs, release time for trainees working towards high school diploma, or loss of productivity due to employees attending training. That's where you put these dollars here in your employer contribution. Any questions? All right, we will keep moving. So at the completion of training, there is, so this is where a lot of that reporting comes in. So when employees have completed training, we will need a copy of the invoice from the training provider showing the name of the training. So it can't just be, an invoice from Monroe Community College for $10,000. It needs to have the name of the training on there as well, so we know what it's for. Documentation of training completion for each trainee. So that'd be, like your completion certificates or transcripts, copy of certification for, your online courses. You will also need to submit a company invoice to SEMCA. So from you, the employer, to SEMCA for the amount that you have, been awarded that you're requesting. And then you also need to submit a payment request form, which we will provide to you. And then at the end of all training, so at the end of the year, we will then have you also fill out a training verification. So this will be, it's going to be like a list of all the employees with their hourly wage pre-training, and then you'll fill out their hourly wage post-training. And then at 6 months, we'll have you fill it out again with their wage. So upon completion of new hire and apprentice on the job training, you must submit a company payroll register query from a payroll system or screenshots from a payroll system dated at 90-day retention period. And so on these screenshots, you need to have the name of the employee, the hourly wage, the hire date, and then if they, terminated their employment, whether, by them or by you, we need that termination date. And then again, we need a company invoice from the employer you to us SEMCA, and then that payment request form, which we will provide to you. This is also, this process is also required for on-the-job training for apprentices. At the completion of training as well, we need impact stories. This will be in a link to a form that you will fill out, and on there they'll have a projected summary of training that you will fill out, business and training quotes, pictures if you have them, outcomes, number of new hires post-training, number of jobs created as backfill, the business growth it created for you, and the positive impact on the trainees. And again, that's submitted online. Any questions over that section? All right. So this is bringing us to the end here. So the next steps. So now after this, there should be in the chat a link to the feedback form. We'll put that in there. I also sent out the link in the email, and that please fill that out if you are interested in any of the services we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, or if you're still interested in the Going Pro Talent Fund. Please select everything you're still interested in on that feedback form so that we know to connect you with the right people. If you are going to continue on with Going Pro Talent Fund, we will then connect you with our business services rep for your area. and they will do fact finding to gather your training needs. If other regional or local partners are available, if training request meets the employer needs, and if there are any other options for successful outcome. So if there's any other maybe training funds that you may be eligible for, they'll connect you with that. And then if they decide you are a good fit for Going Pro and that you are an eligible employer, the BSR will email you the link to the online application site and help walk you through that. And that, once again, that opens May 1st for the application and will close May 24th. If you are awarded funding, you'll be notified via email and sent a request to schedule a time to meet with your BSR. You'll meet with the BSR to review your training plan, the reimbursement process, and then sign the training agreement. And then training can start on the designated start date, which is July 17th, 2023. They've not given us a day they will announce awards by, but you can assume it'll be before 7/17. If you are not awarded funding, or if you're unsure if Going Pro fits your needs at this time, there will be another application cycle offered in the fall of 2023. They don't have any, they haven't given us any dates yet, but based off of previous cycles, that is when the next cycle will start, as far as this whole process of kind of information sessions, updating new rules and regulations and what they've changed the application. And then the employer may apply in the next cycle if you did not apply for cycle 2, or if you were not awarded in cycle 2. And based off years past, the tentative period for FY24's training would be from January 2024 to December 2024.